right before we do the Q&A, everybody who purchased food from Dr. Law outside, I'm sure, I don't know if he told you or not, but he does raise money. They do raise money. It's everybody outside, the whole Kakalaki crew, and everybody here who contributed, the entire FE family. We have raised $800 for Carly Sunshine and her family. We have raised $500 for Chris. Chris is the driver for the Masquerade Tour with Wits It Gets It, and we raised $500 to help Chris. And we also raised $200 to contribute to Tommy That Flat Fellow's activism. And we also, we also raised $200 for Gail, who her home was damaged in Hurricane Ian, and she just barely made it here. So, there you go. And that's thanks to the entire FE family and the Kakalaki crew. Thank you, guys. All right. Yes, the best. All right, Q&A.
All right, everybody. Who wants to start? Let's go. First of all, Dave, can you put your hand straight up? Can you go like this? Just go like this. Dave Weiss, go like this. We're trying to figure out if you were the Indian or the cowboy. You'll get that later. Ask Mark. No. Ask Mark. Okay. Long-time viewer, first-time caller.
Mishan. From North Carolina, I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. My question is about the vortex and the portals with the moon. I've been conducting a lot of moon tests, and to confirm that the Earth is not spinning, it's actually our luminaries. So for about 90 days, I've been taking pictures about where it is from my house. Could you guys expand a little bit about that with the vortex and the sun? Basically how the sun is supposed to go down the vortex and come back out, and the moon is supposed to go through portals as stated in the book of Enoch. Can anyone expand?
All right. The portal aspect is pretty difficult to touch on, to be honest. I think it could be magnetic holography as to the portal aspect. But yeah, like if you have a tornado, it's wider at the top, it's tighter at the bottom. So you can look at the analemma, maybe, you know, the sun goes up and down within that, going faster or slower. So faster in the south, so it would be lower, right? So that's basically the way I see it. It's like an ether vortex. I kind of covered that in my presentation. It's been known about for thousands of years, and then hijacked for heliocentrism, so that's my answer.
What he said. She said that sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Who's next? You got a question?
What's up, guys? You guys good?
Hey, man.
This question is directed towards Mark Sargent.
Thanks, man.
There's a lot of rumors going around various circles that you might possibly be David Weiss's father. And my question is, what is a woman?
That's a two-part question, not related to David Weiss.
I can neither confirm nor deny those allegations about being David Weiss's father. If we're talking metaphorically, maybe. Physically, I don't think so. Are you? We're the same age, right? As far as what is a woman, I defer.
Someone who has a vagina and can make babies.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Austin.
Someone pointed out that in a couple hundred years from now, when they dig up some bones of people, all they're going to find is men's bones and women's bones. There's not going to be anything else.
We just got a boo from the sound guy. Okay.
Hello. Oh, wow, that's loud. I'm from Indiana, traveled a long way down here to see you all. Glad I did. It's been a great day, couple days.
Hey, Indiana, represent.
Hoosiers. Now here's the real question. You guys want to know the mystery of flat Earth? What is a Hoosier?
A couple of different theories on that, you know.
We don't know.
Yeah, like some people say it's who's your
Daddy? Then
yeah.
that's
Actually,
where you're
I
going?
must back up. I'm not native Indiana, so I don't know the full answer.
Here comes the disclaimer.
Yeah, that's my disclaimer. My question tonight is a map question. I've always wondered about this. When I was reading Eric Dubé's 200 Proofs, he has number 39, and number 39 is about an extrapolation from Sydney to Nelson. And he says, okay, because you can make this latitude from Sydney to Nelson go around the world by extrapolating the distance between those two cities, that it makes a larger latitude line than the equator. Well, the trouble with that is Sydney's at 33 degrees south and Nelson's at 41. You can't make any kind of latitude line with those two being not on the same latitude. So when I'm looking at cities on the same latitude, I start at like 3 degrees south. There's a couple of huge cities in South America, and then you can go to 16, 34, 37, excuse me. And then you have to skip over to Australia for 37 and 43. Anyway, but when you continually go down between those two city pairs that are on the same latitude, and I have outlets laid out on an Excel spreadsheet, it's a little too much to detail, but you get continually, when you extrapolate the distance out, and I'm talking about flight distances that anybody can Google, you can go on kayak, you can do anything. But the distances between those, when you extrapolate them, that draws a smaller and smaller latitude line as you go further south. So my question is, just looking at it the way I do, how does that figure? How does that work on the flat Earth when we're expected to get bigger and bigger?
Austin?
All right, so actually I have to disagree with you that you can verify the distances. That is not true. So you actually can't verify distances in the ocean, water. I've actually debated many a credentialed globe zealot about this. They cannot answer the question. You need to know the difference in airspeed and ground speed. If you're talking about planes, then that's relative to static pressure, but you need to know the amount of ground actually covered, and then there's jet streams that will allow you to cover immense more distances. If you're taking these distances to draw your circles, then you're just assuming the speed that they give in the airspeed relative to static air pressure and not looking at the ground speed. Long story short, you would be going much faster. It's recorded they can go 800-900 miles per hour. Like mainstream will tell you that commercial flights have gone over 800 miles per hour. So you would go significantly further using autopilot. It would automatically optimize how fast you go with airspeed.
The first few cities in the city pair where you go down are all over land, however. 3 degrees south, you get 2 cities in South America, you get a couple more cities. So those are distances without water. So I don't know, it's not necessarily the speed, I'm wondering about just the distance, but I understand what you're saying, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I don't think any significant distance would be covered that would somehow validate your point without it going over water. I would have to see the specifics.
And also on a globe, when you're going from one location on a specific latitude to another location on that same latitude, a plane on a globe wouldn't follow that latitude line. It would cut a straight line, a curved straight line, which would change latitudes, because on that specific latitude, they'd have to keep turning to get there, otherwise they would fly off in the wrong direction. So if you look at it, what they're saying doesn't make any sense.
Thank you.
And aren't we dealing with a number of 24,901 miles? Isn't that what they're saying?
At the equator.
But nobody's measured it or observed it, right? Of course not. That's science.
Okay, my question, I think on Wits It Gets It, you talked in the initial part of your presentation, you said that they say that in a vacuum, it's where there's nothing exists at all, but you said that's not true, because if you go a vacuum up to 10 to the minus 6, that there's still a lot of electromagnetic activity. How did you know that, or how did you measure that?
Yeah, you can measure electromagnetic fluctuation many different ways, even static meters, field meters, all kinds of things.
Is there a probe going into the vacuum?
You can actually have sensors built inside the chamber itself. But it's well known that there's electromagnetic fluctuation that far exceeds the particle physics prediction.
And that shows up like on a screen, or how do you
It
see
can, yeah, like via like field meters, static meters. There's many different ways.
it? Shows a waveform or things?
Well, that's typically how we conceptualize it. Sure. There's many different ways to
Okay, I'm just wondering,
conceptualize.
how did you for sure know that?
That there's electromagnetic energy. You could actually conduct. You can actually have conductive properties within a vacuum chamber. Like you can conduct electricity. So like there should be nothing there according to particle physics, but you can actually have like conductive properties within it. It's well known in physics, but just, you know.
Yeah, I get that. I just didn't know if you had something stuck in there or measured.
Usually it's built within the inside of the chamber.
Okay, and then it
Yeah.
projects just something outside.
Yeah, just read on a screen or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not like a meat thermometer. Just making sure.
What's your take on meteors? What are they and where do they come from? What's it? He's got all the answers.
I do have all the answers. These Glovers be coming at me crazy. There's no evidence that rocks fall from the sky. Every time I've looked into that, it's super sketchy. It looks like maybe the government did something. The rocks don't fall from the sky. All meteors come from the same 6 radiant sources in the sky and are cyclical, and it looks like electrical discharges, which debunks the heliocentric model. All the meteors couldn't come from the same 6 areas in the sky over and over. So it looks like electrical discharges.
I want to add one more thing to that, by the way. I think it's also what you're not seeing, which is if there's 6 billion smartphones currently running in the world, why is there no footage of a meteor in real time impacting? Yeah, you can get something crossing the sky, but show me something in real time. Even hitting the water, snow, anything.
And never does a meteor go up.
Also, those big craters we see, like Arizona and other places, they're all circular craters, and they resemble geysers and methane bubbles coming up from within the Earth.
Yeah.
So they're not impacts from something from falling from space, they're come from within the Earth.
From below, not above.
First, I have a comment for Witsit, and then a question for any or all of you. Witsit, it's Descartes. Just FYI for you for later. It's French.
It's Francais.
Francais. My question for any or all of you is, in your research and your studies, what are the, say, top things that because we all know, the more that we know, the less we realize, or the more we realize we don't know, right? So what do you think are the top issues that you have yet to see a good flat Earth explanation for? Because we know the globe model doesn't know shizzle, but we also know that in the flat Earth community there's still some things that maybe haven't been explained adequately. So I'm just wondering what your opinion on that is.
I have one. I know David and I disagree on this. The weakest argument, and I've said this for years, is the inconsistency of the 24-hour Antarctic sun. The 2 schools of thought being that the video is chopped up and we never see a 24-hour sun, or or it happens and we don't have an explanation for it, which in case is probably a secondary light source. I could go either way, but it hardly ever comes up in interviews, ever. I mean, it's by far the weakest thing that could be thrown at us, but most people don't understand it. So
was the question, what's the thing that we haven't figured out?
What's the weakest thing for
Yeah,
flat
I think
Earth?
he phrased it really well. What's the weakest argument or the thing that you haven't had an adequate explanation yet?
Well, there's plenty of things we don't have an adequate explanation, like what is the moon, what is the sun, what are the stars, how far are they?
Sure.
And so, but we can use math, as Marty talks about, and we can use our common senses to find out what they're not. I mean, to believe that a star is trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of miles away, when you actually, look at perspective and things and use the inverse square law of light, these things are impossible. Does that tell us what they are? No, it doesn't. It tells us what they're not. And what is the moon? I often yell at the moon, "What the hell are you? Why are you affecting women like this?"
Is it more a howl?
I think there's something extremely humbling by looking up and saying that we don't know. Because we can't know what any of that stuff is. Science is all about the idea of going up and, we'd have to be able to go to measure it, touch it, explore it, and you can't do that with any of these things. So I think Flat Earth actually brings you to a very humbling place by just saying we don't know, and it's okay not to know. So the Globies don't like that, though, because they think that they have the explanation for everything. So anything in the stars is a big question mark in my...
I just came up with a thought that probably no one has ever thought of, that the heavens are immeasurable and the earth is measurable.
Also, let me throw one thing in there, which is don't forget that even our weakest arguments are far above the head of most Globies. So, we've dissected science so many different ways that even the stuff that we don't like just goes way past them. Just blows right by them. They have no idea what we're talking about. So when we're trying to decipher it amongst ourselves, they think we're speaking Greek. So.
Hi, I'm Colleen and came out from California to see this lovely event, so thank you. And I want to say thank you, gentlemen, very much for being available to do this for all of us. So, what I wanted to ask earlier was, other than the idea of outer space, how is the concept of ether different than the concept of dark matter that they're starting to bring up? It seems to me to be almost the same thing.
I don't know how you could draw a correlation to something that's undefined entirely. I mean, dark matter isn't even defined. It's called dark because we don't know, and it doesn't interact with light, and matter because we assume it's materialist because we're psychopathic materialists. So, ether is it's a fundamental, necessary antecedent of pure potential, or more so of energy as pure potential. So it's just as what exists beyond the material world? Well, something has to. The answer can't be nothing. Nothing can't be the answer. So it is something, and we call it ether. It's a word, right? Is ether fully understood? No. Will it ever be fully understood? No. Dark matter is much different. It is a mathematical placeholder that is, undefined and just holds relativity in place, which, attributes physical properties to. So there's a correlation in the sense that they've called what they need, which is the ether, dark matter. But they haven't defined it, and it's nowhere near as viable as the actual ether postulation. So they're different and somewhat aligned, I suppose, but I would say definitely not exactly the same at all.
Well, they're trying to do that. It sounds like they're trying to use the same words that you use just to make us sucked into their concept of the world and how infinite supposedly it is. So thank you very much for your time.
Mm-hmm. Hi guys, I know you're experts in your own right, but since Marty's kind of the biblical scholar of the bunch,
Not
why
really.
Okay. Why do you feel that the helio-nonsensical model has a lot of 666 involved in the model? What's your explanation for that?
Well, this is inversion. 666 in the Bible, Revelation 13:18, here's wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 666, right? Well, the problem is people don't keep reading Revelation, because in Revelation 15 it talks about how all of these people, these saints, conquered the beast and his image and his number and that sort of thing, and then had command over it, and they were actually up in the canopy of the stars, in the top of the dome, if you will, singing the songs of Moses and the songs of the Lamb. So 666, you have to understand this, God created everything. So God created the number 666, so there's nothing inherently evil about it. It's a number to conquer. That's what it is, and that's exactly what Revelation 15 talks about. So when one of the things is this number actually points to a lot of different things. We could talk about, I don't know, you guys got an hour? There's loads of things, and I actually talk about it in my book. We cover a whole chapter on 666. And one of the reasons that 666 is wrapped up with the devil is that it's actually a key to understand lots of these numerological ideas. So one of the things that Satan or the devil does is tries to keep you away from true knowledge, true wisdom. So if everybody goes around, 6666, that sort of thing, then you never really get to the keys, that sort of thing. As far as The inversion, once again, that's just what they do, you know. So to see 666 wrapped up in it is that's just what they do, you know. It's no different than when I presented the circle and the square. There's nothing wrong with the circle and the square. There's nothing wrong with squaring the circle. But then you see all these jackwagons plastering it in their symbols and their insignias, and you know, this is how they work. So,
David. My second question is to David. I became a flat earther on December 5th, 2015. Thank you very much. And I have a question. You debated Jim Fencer, or I think that's his name. Fetzer. Whatever happened? Did he ever convert or what?
You know, Jim Fetzer, for those who don't know him, he is the bulldog of digging into all the conspiracy of this world. And in my book, if you're digging into these important deceptions that, God bless you, keep going. It's only when you start bad-mouthing Flat Earth from an ignorant point of view. So at a point, he was saying Flat Earth was stupid. I got him on my famous interview, where basically the next interview, and he didn't hear a word I said. But after that, it kind of sank in, and he hasn't mentioned Flat Earth in 5 years. So I'm okay with that. So that's where he's at. He's just focused on other things. He's written many great books that will be worth millions because they're all going to be taken off the market very quickly.
Hi guys, David Rife here. Thank you for all your work. I wanted to start with Ben and just go around whatever order. What was the biggest lesson you've learned since the beginning of 2020? And if you had any advice that you could give to the people here in this audience to carry on forward, what would it be? And if every one of you guys could answer, please.
I'd have to say that definitely the biggest lesson is how very much that society is the one that's doing things to themselves. That if most of my life I've basically done what I've wanted because I live out in the country or I live out in the mountains, and there really isn't any authority figures to even bother us. So we already take care of our own thing. And then in my experience, when you go into town or go into amongst the civilization, if you're not causing any issues, they mostly leave you alone. Well, the big thing that I saw throughout this is people forcing the cooperation on other people because of something they perceived. That in no way did any authority figure ever come up and try and push a vax on me, a mask. No authority tried to keep me out of any building. It was always some normal person. And so it really seems like we've opened up the door for people to really force themselves onto other people. Some real dark ages stuff. So just keeping away from that and understand this isn't authority. These people forcing these things on you are no better or no different than you. Just because that's their opinion, I still do what I want to do, and as long as you do too, you only have to do what they say if you concede.
Hey Marty, before they go on, or any of you guys up there, you guys are familiar with the word pharmakia, right?
Sure.
So pharmakia means what in Greek?
Basically.
Oh, sorry, we're getting duct tape.
I was a musician too. Drug-induced sorcery is what pharmakia means. So,
does it mean drug-induced, or does it mean sorcery across the board?
Well, I mean sorcery across the board, but pharma, you know, is a reference to pharmaceutical. That's something pharma.
And my question is with frequency, with radio, television, you've got light waves, you've got sound waves. You're dealing with frequency. Can frequency actually be a part of pharmakia because it actually does things to the mind?
Short answer, yes. I mean, that's the big speculation that why people are actually, because people are getting sick from COVID, right? Allegedly, it's not, of course, some virus, some invisible bug, but that they actually are claiming that it could be 5G, that they turned this on, and that's literally frequencies that we're not. Now, I don't know because I'm not an expert in these things. I'm an expert in nothing really, but You know, in the sense we are being bombarded by these things, and it doesn't seem like it's good. So yeah, I don't see any problem with categorizing it like that. You know, the people that are doing this are obviously wicked. That's for sure.
Man, that's loud. So the lights are from there for times and seasons. Is there anything maybe special about this upcoming eclipse, maybe the date, where the sun's at, and the zodiac that you see?
What is the question again?
What was the question?
Is there anything special, like maybe where the wandering stars are when this eclipse happens? That's, I think, October.
Oh, like some new alignment that's on the
Yeah,
horizon?
is there anything special that anybody has?
I'm sure there's something special.
Right. I didn't know if maybe you might have some insight. I figured Marty would probably be the better one, because
Anything on your radar, Marty?
Yeah, nothing.
Right, okay.
But now after Marty's answer on the last, and we're all off the air, all the channels have been shut down because of your answer, now we can speak freely.
I do find it interesting, your question, because just recently with this, what was it, a couple weeks ago, the date where everybody was expecting what's the thing where all the Christian people float away?
Rapture.
Rapture.
Don't wrap all Christians into that mess.
Right.
You got a
Marty's
bad
still
thing
here.
going there.
What's that say?
That's a bad stereotype.
But I wasn't even being rude about it. You know, I just. It's very interesting because just in the last few weeks there was the whole big rigmarole about the rapture and a bunch of also political conspiracy coming up. That was very end of the world thing. And it's very interesting that you'd ask a question like that when it seems to be happening all over the place right now. There just really is a weird amped up feel.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Anybody got anything? Wait, somebody's walking over there.
Wait, we were asked to all answer, what did we learn since 2020?
Oh yeah, what's the most important thing you've learned since 2020?
Let me go, I'll go.
You wanna go? Most important things.
That tons of people don't think for themselves and are basically like zombies. So legit, like you can't talk to everybody because they actually like have a disconnect. I think that's what I learned the most was, a flat earth kind of shows you that, but you can't actually try to reach everyone. They literally can't understand you, like you're speaking a different language. So I think that the focus would really just be, I don't know, self-sustainability, you know, maybe settling down, making some babies, and creating the next generation of legends. That's really the only way to win.
For me, it's that, you know, your life is what you think, and I've learned that that's the biggest secret that the elite are keeping from us. They don't want us to know that our thoughts create our reality. So no matter what your situation is, it's because of your thoughts. And to do something. Plant a garden, you know, focus on what you want, and follow that path. Don't just sit there doing nothing, but, you know, put the thought in front of the cart, you know, the horse in front of the cart analogy. So, you know, think those thoughts, do something, and don't focus on the negativity. When somebody shows you something negative and you hate it, that's because something over there you like better. So stop looking over there, go that way. So when somebody does something really that you hate, thank them and go that way.
For me, it was, you guys have seen me do it a few times. It's a new sense of empathy, which is, you know, people ask, you know, how can you stay as calm as you can when people are coming at you in interviews? And it's like, look, when the cameras are turned off, and sometimes when they're turned on, I go, I can't get mad at you because I was you. Everybody in this room started out in the same place. It's like, oh, Flat Earth is horrible. It's really, really terrible. Like, why should we spend any time with this? So when I see the 5 stages of acceptance on the other side of the microphone, when I can see him going through, you know, denial and then anger and bargaining and depression and acceptance, I just look in their eyes and quietly it's like, oh yeah, I was there, man. And, you know, So for me, it's just, a whole new sense of tolerance more than anything, and it helps me get through the day without curling up into a fetal position and start drinking. There you go.
What did I learn in 2020? I learned that Mark Sargent is David Weiss's father. So that was a big revelation.
Keep that going.
I think I learned that this is a spiritual place and that everybody's on a spiritual journey, even if they don't know that they are. And so you can't really wake people up, as Austin was saying. You can't, because they just can't understand you. So the best thing you can do is not go to try to fight the evil all the time or try, that sort of thing, but be the light. Try to show it in your own life and that sort of thing. And so that's what I try to do. I like calling them out too. That's kind of being the light as well. Rebuke the evil, but yeah.
Just one more comment, and Marty said this is a spiritual war, and the best way to win a spiritual war is when your opponents don't think that's something that's even possible, don't think that that's real, and that's what the elite have done. They've put us into this physical world where there is no spirit, and how do you win a spiritual war when you don't believe it exists?
Say one more thing.
Chips off.
This is how Dave always ends up on mute when he's online.
This one.
It really is.
Karen B talks about this all the time, about that we don't recognize our potential. And I think that's really what the spiritual war is all about, is recognizing we've been beat down for so long by these people, programmed and spell crafted and all this other stuff. And I think we have to realize our true potential because, there's God inside of us and they don't want us to know that. So let that shine, I guess.
Hi, my name is Mike. I drove down here from Brooklyn, New York. Thank you so much for what you guys do. Really love all your work. Learned a lot of new information and experienced some great information from Marty. Thank you so much. My question here today is, I know there's benefits to sun gazing. Do you guys know or have experienced any benefits from just looking at the stars at night?
Was the question, is there benefit from looking at the stars?
Sun gazing, right? Sun gazing, not star gazing.
If sun gazing has some benefits to it that we know of, do you know of any benefits of looking at the stars, or have you experienced anything while looking at the stars spiritually?
Marty's mic.
Let me throw something out there. I can tell you just from experience that long before, and again, some of you guys have heard this in the show, that before I got into Flat Earth, I was a big night vision guy. Now, I don't know if that counts, but I sat for hours and hours and hours in the Colorado sky and looked at the stars whenever I could, 3 in the morning in the snow on my back. Did I get any spiritual awakening from it? Nothing that I could tell, but I saw a lot of funny things that were flying around. So, how's that?
Thank you. I actually, you can go first. So this is gonna sound crazy. I normally wouldn't say it. The question's so random that it's like, I gotta say it. Like, I actually have had like 2 moments in my life where I was laying out on the yard, in the grass or whatever, and I had like these random epiphanies, like as in random revelations of understanding in direct unison with shooting stars. So I would say there is something to the sky for sure, knowing how everything is electric, it's all connected through actually like a metaphysical background. Like, yeah, there definitely is something to the stars, and maybe moments of clarity have some type of effect, or maybe vice versa. But I would say yeah, and you'll never find the answer in like a textbook or something.
Well, isn't the Bible describing the stars as the watchers, or Enoch as the watchers? Is there something about that?
It does basically say some of the lights in the sky are entities, yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Check. Okay, cool.
Did you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you were going to jump in. No, you were going to jump in on that though.
I'm sorry, Dad.
No, it's okay.
That's Uncle.
Yeah, I'm so confused. The stars are an endless source of wonderment, and I think that's what they're there for. Besides being markers of time and dates, and mapping and tracking time, time clock, if you will, sky clock. It's an endless source of wonderment. We will always look up and forever be like, what is that? What is it? So we lived in Hawaii. I live, you could go out to Pahoa and there was no light pollution and you were in the middle of nowhere and you could see everything, and it was absolutely incredible. And then we live northern Wisconsin and we have basically zero light pollution out there too. So I can just walk outside my house and it's like, boom. And so many people get cut off from that because of light pollution and they live in cities and they just don't bother to go out. But I think there's just something to the just stargazing in general, just the action of that really just draws you closer to the mysteries. That's all I would say. And I've had, like Whitsitt over there, I've had unbelievable epiphanies just sitting out and looking at the stars, and that I would absolutely agree. It's nothing that I could possibly write to you in a textbook.
No way. Oh, what's up, guys? Let's see, you're Marty, great presentation. Balderson, great. Everyone up there deserves a round of applause. And the event center. But I'll start with Marty. What was I going to ask? Oh, the squared circle. In WWE, WWF, the ring, I was talking to Mark earlier, the squared circle, they call it the get in the ring in the squared circle, and it's a dome. There's a dome over the building, and all the people are around and watching the theater and the play and the stage of the actors that pretend that they're... And Donald Trump got stone cold stunned, remember, by Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Linda McMahon works for Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon's wife, was on the political team with Donald Trump, but she's not on there anymore. But it's just random coincidences. But I wanted to start with Austin, and then go down the line and have everyone ask or answer a simple but extremely hard to grasp thing. And it's different in everything, whether it's biology with Rupert Sheldrake's morphogenetic field, or in physics or in cosmology. Just simply, Austin, like a field, an area, but what is it in physics and science? What is a field? And then have everyone just try to answer that. And I think it'll give us flurfs or flat earthers an advantage. I'm serious. Because the globe earthers, they don't talk about it as often as we do. So the last time, at least I checked, they talked about it. It's been like 5-10 years. They seriously have considered it. So if we all listen to Austin, go down the line, it's going to give us an advantage. So I think it's what is a field, Austin?
How dare you, bro? That's a good question. No university in the world has an answer, but I would say it's autonomous exchange of energy. So autonomous meaning self-governing. So a self-governing field modality would be the autonomous exchange of energy. So I think it's that simple. Autonomous exchange of energy, if you want to get technically into it, then it would be polarization of the ether, pure potential manifest, and then it allowing perpetual exchange via autonomy. But that's my answer, and it's not an easy question to answer, that's for sure.
As the freshman recruiter of Flat Earth, I get a pass on this one.
So, when I was talking about with the particles that were splitting apart, the field is going to be the space in between those two particles where they're missing each other. It's going to where they need to come back. So there's going to be an energy and different things that are sitting in that field, the way you're going to read it, but it's the space in between those two polarized halves. Once you put the two halves back together, the field collapses and the whole thing's done. So that field is actually the space in between, and that space also needs to be occupied by mercury or a fluid. This is what we're talking about with ether, is the area where that field is allowed to exist. So it's just the two different pieces, that are polarized pieces that are apart, and basically the communication in between them.
Well, I guess I have to answer geometrically or numerically or something. I mean, if you look like a baseball field or a football field, right, it's like from, the start to finish kind of thing. So you're point A to point B. So if you talk about like a electromagnetic field, well, that's basically the space that it occupies, right? So I don't know if that's a good answer, but it pretty simple. I guess that's what I do.
I was going to quote exactly what Austin said, but I can't pronounce half the words that he said, so I'm going to pass.
Hi, Corbett Hafner from the paper Heathen Adjacent. Mark Sargent, if that is your name, can you confirm or deny rumors that you're retiring from the CIA and considering a move to Mossad?
Oh, wow. Okay, officially, I'm going to say it, and hopefully they're still here, the owners of...
Dave's mom got a say in this?
Officially, this shirt, just so you guys know, this shirt is courtesy of Bolton's cookery. Are you guys still here? Yell if you are. There we go, yeah, Bolton's restaurant up in Mount Holly. We were shooting a commercial there early in the week, and Jenny was wearing this shirt because I was playing the conspiracy guy, and she looked to me like a CIA agent. And when I saw it, it's like, can I have that shirt? She goes, sure. So anyway, as far as retiring from the CIA, no, I've still got a few years left, and I requested Guantanamo. So.
Get that bench on Mossad.
Oh, Mossad? Come on.
You can't mention that.
Yeah, we're not supposed to talk about that.
Can't mention
Is this transmission still going out?
No.
Okay, good. Anyway, next question.
Somewhere RV Truth is listening to all this, and we're at a Shriner Center, and he's pooping his pants right now.
Marty,
I knew it.
Marty,
I knew
you can't. Marty, you cannot use those two letters in conjunction with one another, please. Throws off the algorithm. Any other questions?
Is that it? Are we
Oh,
done?
we got one more here.
Okay, one more. After this, we go to music, just so you guys know.
Hi, Winston. Sorry. That's the. I know.
Winston is what used to be the NASCAR sponsor.
I'll just say Austin, much easier to say. Anyway, you had that debate with the PhD fellow a couple weeks ago. It was a great debate. You mopped the flow with him. But there was one of the points where he was trying to make proofs that the Earth is moving was that if you're standing at the equator, you look up in the sky and the stars are moving in two different directions, directly above you. Now, I know that's not happening, but I don't think you addressed that one. Can you address that? That's a BS fallacy, correct?
Well, of course it's a fallacy to look up in the sky and see it move and say that proves that the Earth is moving, but I wouldn't say you know that it's not happening, actually. That would have been my answer to the question, what do you think Flat Earth needs to stop, or what the weaker part of Flat Earth is. We don't actually know what the stars are doing at all. I'm looking into it. It could actually just be a magnetic field. There could be literally two rotations of stars, and I don't care if people get triggered that I say that. We don't know what's going on in the south with the stars, and they're crazy, and it could be two sets of rotations. As it pertains to the equator, I've seen you can actually get that effect pretty much everywhere on the Earth. So you can get the optical effect of opposite rotations everywhere on the Earth, basically, depending on what direction you look at with time lapse. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to answer that because that dude was psychotic and scattergunning the whole time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that proves either way. Actually, if I see two different sets of rotations on a globe spinning one direction, I don't really see how that could work. That's impossible. So that would be ironically a refutation of the globe.
And because we don't know what the stars are and the official explanation is provably impossible, the rotation of the stars is no way to prove the shape of the Earth. But can we see on a flat Earth, let's pretend this is the flat Earth, we're in the north, you guys are all in the south, and I'm going like this. This is clockwise, right? Am I going clockwise? Right? It's clockwise to all of us. And you guys are seeing it counterclockwise. We're just on the opposite side of the rotation.
See, this is where I want to fight Dave. Like, we can throw it down and we can throw... Like, I don't think it's a sufficient answer, but I get what you're saying.
No, that's just it's one way to look at it.
Yeah. It makes sense. You're right. Like, if you see the 6 with the 9 on the opposite, and that does probably cause an effect. But there is it looks like they move around a different area in a circle. And so it's questionable. Look into magnetic declination. We don't know what the Earth is. We don't know the map. We don't know where you're actually looking at the stars. It's very interesting. We don't have to make up stories. We have the truth. We shouldn't run away from it. We should be like, yeah, it looks like a magnetic field. I don't know what it is. Who knows? Can you show me some curvature measurements, please?
Aren't they on a circuit?
I still love you, though, but we can fight later.
Is it safe to say the stars are on a circuit?
That they follow a circuit, a certain current or a circuit? Do they not follow the same thing every time except the wandering stars?
Yeah.
So they stay in a circuit or a programmed pattern, correct? Can anyone define the roof of a toroidal field?
Say again?
The roof of a toroidal field.
We define the roof of
The roof of the toroidal field, the very top portion of the toroidal field. Because if we're in a toroidal field, if the stars are following that, this is a deep question, I guess, but if the roof of the toroidal field has a certain pattern or a certain circuit, and we can all obviously observe it, has it ever been explained? And if there is no answer to that, then there's no answer to the stars and what they're doing, other than the fact that they're keeping time, because they're doing the same pattern over and over and over again.
Just to explain so everyone doesn't like freak out here, like there are many explanations how it could work on a flat Earth. You could have a container, you can use a paperweight and show with concentric circles it would do the exact same thing that the stars in the south do. Magnetic holography and a magnetic field, and like you said, that would be the top of the toroid or magnetic holography. So there are many ways to explain it. It is in no way like some reputation of the flat Earth, but it seems to be a little bit more nuanced than, oh, I'm looking in a different direction. That's all I'm saying. That's one of the things I think flat earthers should stop saying.
If I may just interject here, one of the things that Cami and I have talked about is the fact that there could be multiple poles on top of the face of the plane Earth, so that in fact there are two southern rotations, and there is the one center rotation, and then you have the equatorial ones that are always in the center there, and then you have what you have, because what made me think about this originally is when we were talking about sun tracking, we had the people in Australia who were on stream with us, and then we started talking about southern star rotation, and one guy from South Africa says to the guy in Australia, what we have is a carbon copy of what you see. And that was like, oh, why can't there be two? Why can't there? Because if you look at the magnetics of the flat Earth, and you have your pole in the center, which, by the way, if you look at all the old maps, there's actually two magnetic points pointed out in the old maps, which then gives you that dipole, that quadrupole field that we see in the center. And then, as Whitsitt showed in his presentation, the other two pillars on opposite sides, which again, if you follow the poles, you know, there's the southern pole, they just leave it off of the map, right? But if you put it in an azimuthal equatorial point, you've got the North Pole in the center, and then you have a magnetic pole over here and a magnetic pole over here, and it explains the southern star rotation. And you don't see them at the same time anyway, because one half is daytime and one half is nighttime, right? So you're never going to see those stars at the same time on either side of the plane. So it's so easy to just tell people that they're looking at the same stars, but they're looking at copies.
Crushing, Karen. Check her out.
Karen B, ladies and gentlemen.
If I may say, this is something that I hinted on, or I touched on in the talk here, is that the difference between the known and the unknown. So when a lot of people ask flat earthers, like, well, what about the eclipse and what about this? We can't possibly know. This is the difference between a theorem and a theory. A theory is an explanation for things, and a theorem is proof of those things. So even if we perfectly model the heavens above, right? Let's say we come up with a model that explains the southern star rotation and how everything works, it will still always be a theory until you can actually go up and touch those things and prove it. So this is the difference between, and this is the thing I always touched on when we have these arguments about what is well, we can prove what's here because we can measure things, we can touch them, that sort of thing. So we can find theorems here. Upstairs, I don't care who it is, it will always be a theory in my opinion.
And it doesn't trump the fact that water's a natural level. We keep looking up instead of looking out, and that's the whole thing. So.
Hey, Lee here. So I didn't know anything about ether or anything until Whitsitt did his presentation, which was awesome, really kind of eye-opening. But my question is, so what we call magic today or manifestation, is that a manipulation like of the ether around us, or what do you think that is?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Anything that physically manifests has to come from the pure potential state. So yeah, you basically are manipulating the ether in the pure potential state, and then it manifests in motion as something in the physical world.
Do you have to talk about it do you have to talk about it out loud for it to happen?
I don't think so, no.
Absolutely not.
No, 100% you don't have to talk about it.
There you go.
There's power in words though, but yeah.
Cool. We got some more guys, hold on.
So this isn't my original question, so hopefully I pose it properly. This is on behalf of who I like to call Cat Matt from the Quantum of Conscious channel. He posed a recent criticism saying there's no proofs for the globe model. He questions Venus, even in the Bible, is considered the morning star and the evening star. You cannot see it at any other time throughout the night. So how is this possible on a flat Earth model where the globe model supports this phenomenon, if you will?
We're talking about just the transit of Venus?
Yes.
The ability to observe it only being in the morning and, early morning and early evening and late morning.
Hasn't Venus been seen up to like 11 p.m. at night?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been way later, which is impossible on the globe. And the other thing is, what is Venus? Is it a planet? You know, it's impossible. You look at Venus, it's a light as bright as the sun. It's just smaller. So, you know, looking up at the lights in the sky to try to prove the shape of the Earth does nothing for me. But there's been many sightings of it late at night. They say morning and evening, but it's gone late night where you can see it at certain times.
Well, and here's my question. Inside your question, you stated that Venus is the morning star. What exactly makes that the morning star outside of that you stated it? Like that gets filled in. For me, the morning star is the sun. It's also the evening star. It's the one that when it's morning, that's because the sun's there. That's morning. I don't understand, you know, somebody at some point put Venus as the morning star and made up this entire thing, but I don't see where that association's coming in at all when you really stop and look at it. The only star that tells me that it's morning is the sun.
Yeah.
This may be a little off topic because this is called Flatoberfest, not Shambhala Fest, but what do you guys think about inner earth mythologies?
I'll take it. I don't think it conflicts. Are we talking Hollow Earth mostly? Inner Earth?
That's part of it, sure. But I mean, there's so many mythologies like Hyperborea, Shambhala, all the things.
I'll give you mine, which I talked about 7 years ago, which was Hollow Earth was what got me into Flat Earth. I was initially hunting for Hollow Earth. I thought it was a great concept back in 2014, even 2013. And then when I got into Flat Earth, I realized it dovetailed right in. Meaning, if our civilization, if most of the people we know live between sea level and 1 mile up, which is 5,000–6,000 feet, that's nothing. That's almost nothing. So if you had a hollow chamber, there was even
Endless real estate.
Yeah. I mean, commercial airlines cap out at about 10 miles. Spy planes, if you believe in what they say, 20 miles. A 50-mile high chamber is well within the realm to hide an entire civilization if you wanted to do that. So why is it doesn't conflict at all. It's like, look, 50-mile chamber, on a flat, system, piece of cake. You don't need a whole globe to pull that off. I thought, I was a big fan of Dyson spheres and the whole concept, but you don't need that much room to hold a civilization. We live in almost nothing. Everybody lives in a very, very sliver, of space. So, excuse me.
Sorry, we know that wasn't your gut, Mark. We heard
What was
something.
that?
That was David's gut. David had the tacos.
Yeah, but it came from over there.
You also had hot cheese.
But anyway, sorry, it doesn't conflict at all. Inner Earth, fine, great. I have no problem with it. The only big conspiracy that I thought that ever conflicted with Flat Earth that didn't dovetail was Richard Hoagland's secret space program, that there are millions of people living on the moon and hundreds of thousands of people already looking on Mars. And as David and I knew, we tried to debate him and he bailed years ago. He didn't even show up. No explanations, so Richard, you suck.
Plus, what's at the North Pole, right? That's the big question, everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe that's what's there.
The real North Pole?
Right.
I have a question. Not too long ago, there was a David Weiss episode, and several of you were on, including you, Austin. And the fellow that you debated here recently, I think he was the same guy on that episode. But in that episode, he asked a question. I never did quite get the answer to it. He was asking, how can Flat Earth explain 9.8 meters a second? And we got the downward direction with electrostatics, but can that explain 9.8 meters a second?
Yeah. So 9.8 meters per second squared is an agreed upon average of when things go down. It doesn't always happen. It fluctuates constantly, right? So it's just an agreed upon average. It's like, that's the way math works. You need a constant value so you can, work an equation. If you didn't have a constant, you couldn't work an equation. So that's all that it is. And so the downward bias being set with the downward electric flow in the Earth is what sets up and down when things go down, which not all things go down, by the way. Of course, some things go up. When it goes down, it has an agreed upon average. And in order for that to fluctuate based on electrostatics, it would have to be such an immense change that you would effectively kill you, for you to go up, you would die with electrostatics. So you would never see much of a change because electrostatics is so weak. So yeah, it can explain 9.8 because it isn't constant. It doesn't have to be a constant application of a force. I don't know if he doesn't comprehend that, but he certainly doesn't address that. So it's just an agreed upon average of downward acceleration, which is the effect. He's claiming the cause of big G, which, he wants to conflate the two, which is very remedial, frankly. And yeah, absolutely. The downward flow does explain downward acceleration, in fact.
So his point was that electrostatics only go up so high, if I recall right.
Yeah, well, this is just patented. No, he said that it drops off at a certain height, actually, and then he started making claims about 50 miles up. So I don't know about you. You want to go get some proof for anything over 50 miles for me? Because I haven't been able to find it yet. So yeah, that's just a fairy tale story. 3,000 miles in the air, this wouldn't work. Okay, brilliant. That's a cool story, right? We can't verify anywhere close to over 50 miles. So. But there's electrostatics everywhere. You have to have two surfaces to have an electric field that we have on the Earth with the equipotential increase. So there are two surfaces, one on the Earth, one above us. He's just saying that it drops off a certain amount, and he doesn't understand that he's conflating big G to what I'm saying, and there needs to be some immense force pulling everything down from immense distances, and that's not the claim. It's that there's a downward flow, it sets the up and down, there's agreed upon average beyond that.
I think Bob Nodal talked about this last...
Phone drop.
Yeah. Whoa there, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think Bob Nodal talked about this last year. I think he addressed this whole thing about that gravity is real, not that what they understand as gravity, but that it's a downward force. And
yeah.
So, yeah.
Hi everybody, I would like to ask about the blue eyes or the sky eyes. What can you tell us?
They're the prettiest color eyes.
Blue eyes.
The sky eyes. I said blue eyes.
She did, but she also said Scorpio long walks on the beach. Just kidding.
Wifey's right over there, be careful.
No, the eyes that is in Antarctica.
Gotcha, the sky eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I've seen the one video of the claim. Any of you guys know anything about it?
I've seen I've supposedly seen pieces of it where they're talking about the firmament coming down. The only things I could ever track it back to were all on Etsy, and it didn't actually have any information attached to it, and I've seen it called O3. It's pretty interesting, but I can't source it, not successfully anyways, to anything real that I can grab onto, so I don't ever talk about it, I guess. But I have seen mentions of it, but like I said, it always ends up going back to Etsy and some guy selling it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool story. If you guys don't know what sky eyes, is the potential that the part of the firmament is made out of a blue material that's ultra cold and it's ultra heat, it heals itself. So, the story is that you can drill, a hole into it, but if you have to basically reinforce the hole, otherwise it's going to close in on itself. I like the story, but Yeah, that's about what we got. It's really the one story. Yeah.
I have a second question regarding the clouds. Do you know the altitude where we can find the clouds and where there are no more clouds?
What?
The clouds.
Cloud. The altitude where you can find the clouds, and does it fluctuate?
50,000 miles or 30,000 miles?
I live up in the mountains, and if you ever drive up into the sharp mountains, like I live in Northern California, and our mountains are it's a very steep incline in, so you're changing elevation rather quickly, and I've seen you drive through the clouds fairly regularly. I'll be driving and the clouds are below me, and then 2 minutes later the clouds are above me, and it just all depends on what the atmospheric pressure's like and what the temperatures are like.
I can concur on that. I've been in many mountains and been in clouds. So.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
I've also been in Benjamin Balderson's van, and I saw some clouds. I saw some, it was high.
That was a smoke. That was a fishbowl. That was a fishbowl.
It's smoke that looks like clouds.
Smells funny.
Yeah.
So I have a question for anybody about...
Very high altitude.
Ooh, that's a t-shirt. High altitude, man. Hey, what's the question?
So I have a question for anybody about what is at the north. So we Rupus Negra or Mount Meru, Mount to congregate, something about a swirling tip that sucks the tides in and out. And then I've also learned about these pillars of Hercules or the pillars of Samson, to where it's like an anode and a cathode for the earth up at the north. Does anybody can expound on any of that?
So you were clicking out for a second there. The first question was about Mount Meru. That was the question?
So we know that there's Mount Meru at the north.
Right.
Maybe a swirling vortex that sucks the tides in.
Right.
But then there's also these pillars of Hercules, which is the anode and the cathode for the earth. And can anybody expound on that?
I got nothing.
Well, saying we know that Mount Meru is at the north, I don't know if we know that. I think that it probably is. We were speculating. These are places that, again, we're not allowed to go to here on the physical earth, the north and beyond any part of the shoreline of Antarctica, if it even goes all the way around. So to say we know, I don't think that's a fair statement. So what's there? It's not Santa Claus.
When you're looking at the...
Oops, sorry, wait a minute. Sorry about that.
What you're looking at, supposedly, when you're looking at the north or the Mount Meru, or for heathens, it's Yggdrasil, it's the tree of life, then that's like the tunnel right through the center of the Taurus. That's where, like when I was laying out my tree, that's where all the chakras are sitting. It's that center line. And then the way the Taurus goes, it's that very center, and then it goes, and then the bottom goes, just like a tree, where you got the root system down here, and you got the canopy up here. So now when you're talking about the two other things, that's the two dipoles that Karen was just talking about. Then the two dipoles are causing all of that. That's where the three polarities were lining up, and then where they are, the fields of them, where they're causing, that's what's causing that four, where you're getting the four directions and you're getting that more clover look thing.
Wouldn't that also be a positive, a negative, and a neutral?
Yeah.
So that would be your sun being the positive, the moon being the negative. The sun puts off the hot light, the moon puts off the cold light.
Yeah.
They work in the toroidal field at a certain level, they stay at the same level, they stay on a circuit.
Yeah.
That right there in itself proves that it's electromagnetic.
Yeah.
There you go.
True Earth Mount Meru Summit is coming up, so TEMMS.com. It's gonna be epic. .live, I was just kidding. I'm terrible at branding, I'm terrible at PR. But it's gonna be epic, a lot of people, and I was saying that not just to promote it, but you should go get your ticket. But I actually am going to cover some pretty epic gravy about that, as is Jaron, so you guys should check it out. It's called True Earth Mount Meru Summit, or you could be lame.
And don't forget to use Marty50, everybody that signs up. That's the best code out of all of them, just so you know.
Rick.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
The Earth is a battery. Sun is the cathode. Moon is the anode. the earth itself, the land is the grounding force, and the salt water, the salinity is required in your body. Quit listening to the lies. The salt water is how mother moves the energy, because mother, we're talking as above, so below. In your body, the back of your head is where your mind of God is. That's the cathode. Your heart is mother. That's the anode. Your body itself is the grounding force, and all your body fluids have the magic of God's source. They are exactly what the salinity of the salt water is. And all the lies they tell us about, you can't drink salt water, you get thirsty and die, that's horse, you know what? Because all your body fluids are literally the ocean's salt water.
Was there a question in there?
The question is, you guys already know about the Russian drilling that went down 7.8 miles and they was wrong. I think Dave talks about this, about every way. Well, that's the bottom of the cosmic egg. You know, the only way you can get through there is to raise your own vibration by free will practices. But I didn't come up with a question, guys, I'm sorry.
On that one,
There you go.
guys just got smacked with something.
Well, to answer your question, boxers, not Braves. So there's.
So I guess this is a community question. I've kind of wondered about if it's possible we can map at least the travel of the sun over the earth as best we could. And what I had thought is, I just downloaded your app, Dave, is taking off one of Rob Skiba's ideas, or I can't remember the name of the app, but he triangulated the sun. But if we could do that with everybody on the app, say like at noon, everybody on the entire app is reporting a time, an angle to the sun. And if as a community, we could then compile that all across the plane and start getting somewhat of a path.
It's definitely something that we should try to do, but the problem is, the way I see it, and maybe you guys could confirm, is the sun that we see is not in the same position for each of us. We see it projected into our personal sky dome, and on many of my interviews, I use an example. I have a sheet, which I call my sky sheet. I have a light behind it, and then someone's standing over there, and someone's standing over there, and they see that light on the sheet, the sky, in two different places. So there's no way to triangulate it. We know the distance between us. We could even know the distance to the sheet, but we're looking at two different suns. So, who was it that did it? Decimal Z, Dr. Zach, he did a layout showing that you really can't triangulate these lights in the sky. But there are, having the app now with the group calls, I'd love to set up calls where we have somebody in Johannesburg, somebody in Santiago and Australia, and we could all look at the things at the same time and probably get some data from that. But triangulation, I don't know if it can be done.
This was the idea, Dave, when years ago that we were talking about with the phones. We don't have the technology on the phones yet, but if we had the technology on the phones, the right lenses, what you could do is you could use an app that would, first of all, take all of the humidity, barometric, every reading that you could get from your local area, but the app would send you a message saying, get ready, get your phone out, set it on the tripod, set it still, put it on the moon, keep the moon at focus. The app then takes a picture at regular and then at full-blown zoom in, and using the pixelation rate. So Dave's in Connecticut, I'm in Indiana, we've got somebody in Hawaii, we've got another person in South America somewhere. By using that technology, that measurement of the pixelation of the moon itself on the screen, you can then get a measurement on what the size is for Mark, what the size is for, say, Austin or whoever's wherever. And by doing so, you can use that triangulation to use the size of the moon to see what the differences is. But then you've got all these factors, and this is what I keep getting at with folks. We can keep looking up and trying to find answers and come up with answers. I think we're spinning our wheels. I really do, and I'm not trying to knock anybody, but I think the biggest point is in flat Earth, we have to look out. We have to keep looking out. But if we could measure the distance of the moon from where Dave's perspective is, where my perspective is, where Austin's perspective is, and anybody else that's out further along the ranks, at that point in time you use trigonometry, that you can actually find the distance of the moon and the size of the moon. And that's something they don't want us to do. And that's just something that we can all do. We could do that. We have the technology, we have the platform. We don't have the technology on the camera. And once that technology is on the camera, at that point in time, you can actually do some things. But humidity, well, we have to remember, does humidity play a significant role in the magnification of the moon? Because it definitely does that on Chicago across Lake Michigan. Humidity does. So there's a lot of factors that we have great ideas, but I think there's something above us that we're not supposed to figure out. And I think we need to quit looking out up there when we're talking about flat Earth. Water's a natural level. That's the bullet. That's the main bullet, that water is a natural level and 71% of our surface is level. What else do you need? At that point in time, you might be talking to people with blindfolds and Q-tips stuck in their ears. And that's what I think what we have to figure out. But anyway, I think what you're right though about the sun thing, if we could do that, that'd be great. But the easiest way I think would be the moon, because that's something that a camera can actually picture and get a hard line edge on with the pixelation rate. But I don't know if they're ever going to give us those cameras. That was it.
We gotta move on. That's the end of Q&A. Sorry.
Q&A is now over.
Yes, yes. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your
Thank you.
effort. You are best.